Hello there, and I'm going to teach you how to find the lowest common multiple of two numbers or more and the highest common factor of two numbers or more. Lowest common multiple, which also stands for LCM. How to find the lowest common multiple of two numbers. Finding that is finding the lowest integer that is the multiple of those two numbers. Highest common factor of two numbers. This is finding the highest integer that divides exactly into both numbers. This is also known as GCD, which is also known as greatest common divisor. It's good to know this because you could also be asked a question, find the GCD instead of the HCM. So that's why it's good to know what it's also known as, because there's going to be questions where you might be asked to find GCD, but it's asking the same thing as finding the HCM, the highest common factor. Highest common factor is the same way as finding the greatest common divisor. Let's jump into the first question. Find the LCM of 12 and 18. So there are two ways of doing this. You can just write out all the multiples of 12 and all the multiples of 18, and to find the first multiple of those two numbers, the first multiple of those two numbers are in both of those numbers, the multiples. So for example, 12, 18. So for 12, it'd be 12, 24, 36, 48, 60. You'd keep going. 18, it's 18, 36, 54. You'd keep going. But see, we could stop here because 36 is in both multiples. It's the lowest common multiple between the both numbers. So therefore 36 is the lowest common multiple. Another way of finding out the lowest common multiple is writing out both numbers in as if they were multiplied by prime factors, so just splitting it up. So for example, 12 is the same as writing 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3. 18 is the same as 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 2. So 2 multiplied by, multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3. Sorry about that, yes. So here is what you do. You now multiply the common factors to get your lowest common multiple. So you do 2 squared, so 2 multiplied by 2, because it appears twice in 12, multiplied by 3. You don't need to multiply by 2 because 2 is already in the 18. So you multiply by 3, but also another 3 because it appears twice in 18. So 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3 is equal to 36. Therefore 36 is the lowest common multiple of 12 and 18. Whatever way you want, you can do. It's preferred to do the second method, because if you're dealing with big numbers and you might not be able to work out the multiples of that number if you don't know. Let's say, for example, it could be lowest common multiple of 356 and 603. You're going to write out all the multiples of both of those numbers till you find a lowest common multiple. When the reality is you could just split up into as a product of prime factors, as I've done here, because these are prime factors. 2 is a prime number, 3 is a prime number, and then fuse the prime factors that you use to multiply for both numbers together to get your lowest common multiple. So let's move on to the second question. Find the highest common factor of 10 and 12. So in this case, I can show you 2 steps. You can write out both numbers and write out their factors, and then find the highest common factor. So for 10, its factor is 1, 2, 5, and 10. For 12, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. So as you can see, 2 is in both, is a factor for both 10 and 12, and it appears to be the highest common factor, let alone it's the only common factor other than 1, but it's the highest common factor because 1 wouldn't be the highest common factor because 2 is greater than 1. So there are no other common factors in both of these numbers. 3 doesn't go into 10, 5 doesn't go into 12, 4 doesn't go into 10, 6 doesn't go into 10, 10 doesn't go into 12, and 12 doesn't go into 10. So therefore 2 is the highest common factor. Another way of doing this is, again, similar to the first question, split it up as a product of prime factors. So to get 10, 10 multiplied by 5. No, sorry, 2 multiplied by 5. Apologies for that. 2 being a prime number, 5 being another prime number. 12. To get 12, 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3. You simply just take the common factor, the common number that's in both of these, and that is your highest common factor, therefore also known as your greatest common divisor. So 2, for example, let's say if it was 20, let's say if 10 was 20. So 20 would be 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 5. That highest common factor would be 4 because 2 multiplied by 2, which is 4, is also in 12. 2 multiplied by 2 is equal to 4. So therefore the highest common factor would be 4. So for 10, because 2 is in both numbers as a factor, that's why it's the highest common factor between the two. So 2 is the highest common factor of 10 and 12. So we go to the next question. Find the lowest common multiple of 6, 8, and 10. So now we're trying to find the lowest common multiple of 3 different numbers. See, this is where the second method can prove useful, because when we're dealing with 3 numbers and you're trying to find the lowest common multiple, this can take forever. You're going to have to write down all the multiples of 6, all the multiples of 8, all the multiples of 10 till you find a lowest common multiple of those 3. So let's do the second method to working out the lowest common multiple. Going to write these numbers out as products of prime factors. So 6 is 2 multiplied by 3. 8 is 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2. 10 is 2 multiplied by 5. To find the lowest common multiple, we add these factors together. So we do, because there's 3 2's in the 8, we do 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2. Factor of 3, we multiply that by 3. And then the factor of 5. This is how we're going to get our lowest common multiple. So 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 5. You're going to get 120. And you can double check to see that is the lowest common multiple, because we can write it out actually if we wanted to. 6. So let's say 6, 12. I'm not going to write all the way up to 120. You can see if 12 is a multiple of 6, therefore 120 would be a multiple of 6. 8, 16, 40. Any multiple of 40. If 40 is a multiple of 8, then any multiple of 40 would be a multiple of 8. 120 is a multiple of 40. And for 10, that's axiomatic. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 60, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. So as you can see, 120 is the lowest common multiple, and you can double check for yourself. So 120 is the lowest common multiple of 6, 8, and 10. Move on to the next question. Ooh. Push this onto the next page. Find the GCD of 36 and 84. GCD is the same way of writing highest common factor. This is why it's important to know what GCD stands for, greatest common divisor. It's the same way of asking highest common factor. So the same process as we've done before. 36. I'm going to write that out of products of prime factors. So 36 is 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3. 84 is 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 7. Therefore, to work out the greatest common divisor, if you've seen the previous steps, we just need to find where it's common in both of these multiples. So as you can see, there are 2 2's. 2 multiplied by 2 is in 36, but 2 multiplied by 2 is also in 84. 36 also has a multiplied by 3, but it has it 2 times, whereas 84 has a multiplied by 3 1 time. So therefore, to find the greatest common divisor, you're going to do 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3. And your greatest common divisor is 12. And the final question is find the lowest common multiple and highest common factor of 54 and 72. So let's work out the lowest common multiple. We're going to write out, like I've done in the previous questions, our two numbers as a product of prime factors. So 54 written out as a product of prime factors is 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3. 72 written as a product of prime factors is 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3. So to work out the lowest common multiple, we're going to multiply by the highest common amount of common factors. So the lowest common multiple, 54, highest common amount of factors, 2 and 3 both go to these numbers. So we're going to do 3 multiplied by 3 times, because that's the highest common amount of factors between the two. 3 goes into 54 3 times, whereas 3 goes into 72 2 times. So that's why we multiply by 3 times. We're also going to multiply by 2 3 times as well. So actually I should have do the 2 first, because 2 comes before 3. Ooh. Insert 3. So apologies for that. So because 2 is a common factor in both of these two numbers, but we want to multiply by the highest amount of that factor. So it's in there amount of 3 times in 72, whereas in 54 an amount of 1 time once. Same with 3, it's in 54 3 times, whereas it's in 72 twice. So to work out a lowest common multiple, we do 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3 to get 216. And that is our lowest common multiple for 54 and 72. So now for our highest common factor, same process, copy out, just instead of rewriting it, just copy out it written in common as a product of prime factors. Except for this time, we multiply by the lowest amount of common factors in the two numbers. So 2 is only in 54 once, whereas it's in 72 3 times. 3 is in 54 3 times, whereas it's only in 72 2 times. So therefore, we do 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3 to get 18. Therefore, our highest common factor is equal to 18. And that's it. And that is how you find the lowest common multiple and the highest common factor of two numbers. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.